What is going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back for some more Cyberpunk 2077 news. Today we're going over some new multiplayer details from Cyberpunk Online, a companion app for Cyberpunk 2077 that hasn't gotten a ton of coverage, an insane new ad for Cyberpunk 2077 with an insane new price tag, a new interview with Patrick Mills from CDPR's Quest team, Cyberpunk Red's hardcover reveal, and more Cyberpunk products popping up across the world. First up, we have new details on the standalone multiplayer game set in the Cyberpunk universe being worked on by a separate CDPR studio in Wrocław. Thanks to German fan site Night City Life, we have some more insight into the project, as CDPR has hired Gabe Amat-Angelo as the creative lead of MP as early as January 2020, although no one except NCL seemed to catch this one. Amat-Angelo is somewhat of an industry veteran, formerly a creative director at EA, as well as a lead PvP designer and creative director at BioWare. Most recently, he was the co-founder and creative director at QC Games, working on a game called Breach, an asymmetrical multiplayer title that, although was fairly positively received, didn't end up lasting too long and was shut down. He also seems to be known for his work on Star Wars: The Old Republic's multiplayer. Personally, I've never played either, so if you've played either Breach or the multiplayer of The Old Republic, drop a comment and let me know if you had a positive experience with either of them. Back in 2018, we also reported on a CDPR partnership with Digital Escapes, a company specializing in AAA multiplayer development, tool creation, and asset production, and they too have worked on asymmetrical multiplayer titles, most notably the multiplayer mode for Dying Light. This is the point of crossover that Amat-Angelo and Digital Escapes both have, which might be indicative of the direction CDPR wants to take their online experience. For those of you who don't know what asymmetrical multiplayer is, they're usually games with two teams of players with entirely different abilities and gameplay mechanics centered around some sort of objective. The teams are also not split equally. Examples include games like Evolve, Deceit, or Dead by Daylight, and this formula seems to naturally lend itself to games in the horror genre. Dying Light's multiplayer, which I mentioned earlier, was a 1v4 zombie concept where you had to manage resources and outwit an alpha zombie, and it did seem to have a strong niche community. Asymmetrical multiplayers haven't become as mainstream as, say, battle royales, and are pretty risky based on being notoriously difficult to balance. I think the different classes from the pen and paper, like the Rocker Boy, the Media, the Techie, Solo and Netrunner, or even the factions like Trauma Team, could be something that's incorporated here if they decide to go on this route for multiplayer. Again, considering all the classes and their abilities, this would be a monumental task to balance. According to the latest CDPR conference call, there are also a number of prototypes for multiplayer, and we'll likely see it come out in 2022. Moving on, check out this brand new Cyberpunk 2077 ad with the updated release date in the middle of Times Square. As far as I know, this is one of the most expensive billboards in Times Square, ranging anywhere from $1 to $4 million US for the month. Although this sign is digital and could theoretically be changed quite easily, this is potential insight into December 10th being the final date. Moving on, for those in the Nordic countries of Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden, CDPR and Bandai Namco have rolled out an app called Breach. The app is described as follows: Hack, Steal, Trade. Welcome to Breach. In Breach, you play as a Netrunner, master hacker of the post-net world, and brain-burning secret stealer. Inspired by Cyberpunk, DVA have developed this community-building scavenger hunt for Bandai Namco. This app will last until November 19th, with prizes for hacking specific tasks being a Samsung TV and an Xbox Series X. Moving on, we have an interview via Collider with Patrick Mills, Quest designer at CDPR, so let's go over some of the new and standout details. We already know that Cyberpunk 2077 draws from prominent cyberpunk genre movies like Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell in terms of visual style, but Mills also mentions noir films, specifically Streets of Fire, as an equally big influence. The themes of corruption, moral ambiguity, death, fate, and futility is something Cyberpunk leans into, which are the tenets of the noir genre. In an interesting question about if the player could ignore the main quest altogether or at length and still reap the rewards of meaningful character and level progression, Mills says absolutely. One of his personal favorite things to do is set a quest destination at the other end of the city and make his way there by foot, taking in the sights and completing side activities along the way. Rounding off this week, we have the unveiling of some new Cyberpunk 2077 Adidas sneakers for the Asian market, which we thought had been cancelled back when Hypebeast first reported on it. Seems like they've obviously not been cancelled, and along with this we have our first images of the OnePlus phone as well. Also, take a quick look at the hardcover reveal of Cyberpunk Red from Artal Sorian, the creators of the Cyberpunk IP. This will be out on November 19th, so if you want an almost 500-page deep dive into the lore and rules of the TTRPG, keep your eyes peeled. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, have a fantastic weekend, and for everything and anything Cyberpunk 2077, join Neon Nation by subscribing to the Neon Arcade.